Good? Awesome. Great. I'm Vanshika. I'm part of Gnosis Chain team, working as a developer relations manager. And I'm very excited to bring you to the workshop for Gnosis Chain particularly. I think some of you might already know about Gnosis Chain, but just to keep everyone updated what's happening and what we are building. So Gnosis Chain is one of the first Ethereum sidechains and basically has been stayed true to its values since the inception. So it's a credible, neutral, L1 community-run chain, and it has around like 200K validators securing the network across the world. Okay. Now the gas fees paid on Gnosis Chain is pretty cool because you're paying in XDAI, which is sort of a stable token for the gas fees payment. Transaction times is up to 5 seconds, and the transaction fees is pretty low. Like for 500 transactions, you just need like $0.01. So Gnosis Chain came out with like its newest vision this year, which was like a 3.0 vision, and it's completely around like a full stack decentralization. Of course, the chain is decentralized, but the products and the protocols that we have been building, like Gnosis Pay, which is like a full-fledged payments network existing on Gnosis Chain and allowing you to pay via Visa merchants. Then we have Circles, which is basically like a decentralized and Sybil protection protocol, you could say, allows you to utilize universal basic income concept. You basically like earn 1 CRC tokens every single hour. Then we have Hashi, which is like an EVM Oracle aggregator, and Metri, which is like a full-fledged wallet integrating Circles and Gnosis Pay. So this time we're doing very variety of bounties. The tracks are completely different from what we have done in the past. We have one of the tracks for Shutter-enabled Gnosis Chain, which is going to be around encrypted transactions. Up to $2,500 are available in USDC and SHU, which is like a Shutter token for 2 teams. Then we have a dApp node and a Shutter network-based bounty track, which would allow you to like build. If you are like a node validator enthusiast, this is probably a track you want to take a look at and build on it. Then we have a track for Circles as well. Someone who is interested to build around AI agents and anti-Sybil protection protocol-based thing, then this is the place you have to be at. Next one, build dApps with some partner integrations that we have, which is like Obol Network and Secret Network. And last one, of course, a cross-chain application using Hashi protocol. So if you want to deploy on Gnosis Chain, I think everyone knows about Hard Hat and Foundry. You can use any of the dev environments you prefer. These are some of the information you would probably need to know, like Chain ID, Explorer, RPC, and the faucets that are available. You can take the link of docs as well, which is the official docs for Gnosis Chain. It will guide you through all the things that we have. There are custom signer, account abstraction, and different guides available as well. Moving on, Circles. So Circles is basically, it's like what we say is fair money for all, but I wouldn't go with that narrative. I would like to bring the Sybil resistance side of things. It's sort of like a decentralized trust protocol, which is governed by the social eccentric value. So the Circles token that I was talking in the beginning, it's the eccentric value that you will be able to provide to the community, to the members who are part of that network. And how does it work? Well, when someone joins the Circles network through a trusted connection, a personal token gets minted to that person. And every single hour, you get like 1 CRC, which is 24 CRC a day. There's obviously like a 7% demurrage also for like about an year. So your Circles can deflate here and there based on the time period that you have. And the second thing, so everyone has the option to like, encourage to trust the personal Circles token, but you can also accept the tokens from different connections, right? So I have my personal tokens, it's Vanshika Circles token. Philippe, my colleague, Philippe's Circles token, I can accept those tokens from him as well. And utilizing it in a certain way, like make a community-centric value around it, where we both can put our tokens into a group and collateralize it and get the group tokens against it. Now, the trust mechanism here is based on like a social graph. There's like a pathfinder in the backend. So that kind of tracks down from which point, from which vertex the trust path is flowing. Am I trusting someone? Someone is mutually trusting me, or is there an outgoing trust going in, right? Then I just want to take you through a bit of code here. So how do you use Circles SDK? There's a very cool implementation that we built, and this might be something of use. So in this code base, you can see like MetaMask, Comet, and Safe. So of course, you can use Safe for protocol kit as well if you want to do account abstraction stuff with it. But here, I'm just going to go ahead and do MetaMask wallet. And because my account is already Circles validated, it's part of the network, I already have around 1,600 Circles token. It will keep increasing every single hour. Now, I can utilize these tokens, do a lot of things. I can mint my personal tokens and obviously send my tokens to the people who trust me. Okay. A very important feature about Circles in general is the groups. So you have a human avatar here, which you are seeing right now. It's my personal token. And then you have groups and organizations. Now, this is where also something comes around, DAO and the intrinsic value. When you create a group, you are able to send your personal tokens as a collateral to that group and mint the group token against it. So if someone wants to exit the group, they would have to make sure that they take their personal tokens and they relieve the value of the group token, so they don't exercise that token again. And the way they would join the group is by getting trusted by the group owner itself. So today, if I create a group of ETH Singapore and I just want the hackers to be there, I would have to trust each one of you. And after some time, if I want that, okay, now the workshop is done and I don't want them to be the part of this group anymore because it's not serving a value, I can also put an expiry date to it. So the trust connections can expire after a certain point of time if I want to. And there's a base mint policy for groups as well, where you can mention that how would people mint these tokens on a certain specific values. When you are building applications particularly, you might want to say, yes, go ahead. Payments, not as of now, but maybe in future course of time. I guess you're trying to say if it's pegged against any stable currency and you can utilize it on chain to buy some things, like, yeah, so not in this moment, but of course, that's the vision we are going towards, that if you hold, let's say, 200, 300 Circles token, we are able to provide certain cashback value if you're on Gnosis Pay, or you're using something like a ENS domain, then you get something against the Circles tokens you hold. Yeah. That's the idea. Yeah. And the pool grows as you add people in the network because you collateralize your own personal token, so it keeps on growing. And if the group owners decide to basically buy back some of it and provide like a true value, which is one-on-one pegged to something, then that is kind of like doable in future course of time maybe. So yeah, that's the payment side of things. So for both groups and human avatars, you'll have to trust the person in order to invite them to the network. If you untrust them, then they are not part of the network anymore. So some of the problem statements that I kind of listed on the dashboard was if you want to build like a voting rights platform, you know that there is like a lot of Ethereum improvement protocols that happen, and people publicly go on forums and they vote on certain protocol side of things. They could utilize the CRC tokens and this trust protocol that not someone randomly coming from network is coming and voting it, right? Because I'm trusting this person to join the forum, so this person's vote makes a lot of sense here, and they are not a bot or they are not someone wrong who is trying to vote against or with it. So thinking from a perspective of community, socials, and obviously if you have to build like an event management system where we are using NFC tags right here and we are actually checking out what is everyone doing. And if I want to like make a trust graph of the people sitting in this room, then I can tell that, okay, yes, I trust you. Let's tap the NFC and let's be connected with each other, and we get to share the profiles with each other as well. So precisely from that perspective, you can build a lot of things for Circles SDK. To make things simple for you, I've done a bunch of hacking things. There is a Circles Vite and React implementation. Probably went with Vite because I didn't know if people would want to have server-side rendering, and Vite is super fast. So there's a whole code base with multiple Circles components as well, managing trust and trust, Circles onboarding, even a dashboard if you would like to have, and transferring the Circles across the network. So if you want to like utilize this, and it's already mentioned in the ETHGlobal website itself. Like if you go back in here, there are resources, and you can just use it here. If you want to use Safe Protocol Kit as well, there's an implementation as well mentioned on GitHub. And one another thing that I wanted to approach was how we could use different providers with circles. Like right now, when you initialize the SDK, you use like browser contract runner within the SDK. But if you're a big fan of WAGMI provider, Veeam, or even like dynamic provider, then there's a social kit in place as well, which uses dynamic provider. And you can just wrap the entire context, your Circles SDK context, and utilize it for social logins, build your profiles, invite people, so that they don't even feel that they are doing something on-chain, but then they still, the user experience is really, really seamless. So this is mostly it for Circles SDK. Now, I would like to invite Philippe, who is the head of infrastructure in Gnosis Chain, and he'll take ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about Shredder. Basically, what it is, so Shredder's mission is to shield protocols and their users as well from malicious actors. Now, of course, this can mean a lot of things, and they do this for many different protocols. For example, for Snapshot, which is a voting for DAO platform, basically. They can actually shield it so that votes remain private and no one can kind of influence the end result, because often people will look at what is already the most voted part, and then they will vote the same. Or imagine you want to incentivize votes or do kind of prediction market kind of thing, where if you vote the same way as others, then you would get some money, for example. This obviously would need to be private. If not, you could just look at the chain and then just vote what others did as well. So Shredder can protect from, or could potentially protect from this kind of protocols as well. But what we at Gnosis at least are more interested in, is that they can provide an encrypted mempool. And we at Gnosis Chain are actually the first ones to implement this specifically. So the way it works is that basically, currently, when you create a transaction, you post it on chain, it goes to a public mempool, and then everyone can look at what your transaction is doing, and then potentially builders can decide to put them basically in the order they want, right? That's how MEV happens. So for example, if you are trading some tokens and your slippage is not well defined or too big or whatever, some searcher or builder will end up creating like 2 transactions that basically buy the token and then resell it to you a bit like for more in the very, very next transaction, which of course is not great and also a bit centralized, whatever. It's a bit, it's not great, let's say. And Shredder actually allows, to protect against this. The way this works is that they, you can basically encrypt your transaction, post it to a smart contract, and then when a block is built, they will decrypt that transaction during block building, and then put it at the very beginning of the block in the same order that it was added to the smart contract. So there's a sequencer contract. If I send my transaction first and then someone else posts a transaction after that, then my transaction will always be the first in the block and the other one right after. So the fact that it's encrypted and that the sequence is forced by the protocol means that it cannot be MEV'd, right? So even if the builder technically at some point gets access to the raw transaction because they have to decrypt it, they cannot decide in which order to put the transaction, meaning that it's safe and they cannot extract some value from your transaction. So the way to use the shredderized Gnosis chain, basically there are 3 different ways. So you can use an encrypting RPC. The link is here, so you can just add that, for example, to a MetaMask. Of course, it's on your Gnosis chain at this point, so you can use it on mainnet or Shadow. The issue with that is that if you actually use one of those providers, you would actually send your raw, unencrypted, clear transaction to, in this case, the Shredder endpoint, and they will still be able to execute it and do MEV on it, so that's not great. It would kind of be akin to, let's say, Flashbots, who are technically private, but they have access to a transaction and can still mediate if they wanted to. So it's a good solution, but only if you self-host it. Like, this is good for kind of testing it and playing with the protocol, but if you want to actually be safe, you need to self-host that encrypting RPC. The second way is to use a wallet that implements Shutter, but, well, basically there's none yet, so this is not an option that exists. It is technically possible, but we're still trying to build that. You can also encrypt transactions locally. The issue with that, again, is that you cannot sign a transaction with any wallet without broadcasting it. And of course, if you sign a transaction and then broadcast it, then the whole network knows about it and can again attack you. So that's not great. Except for Brave Wallet that actually is able to sign transactions without broadcasting them, after which you can encrypt the transaction, post it to the sequencer contract, and then you are safe. So where do you come in? Well, basically as hackers on Shutter. Basically, the idea is to solve options 1 and 2. So the RPC parts, again, it is open source, of course. Everything we build tends to be open source. And the objective is just to create a dApp node package for the encrypted Shutter, the Shutter encryption solver. I don't remember exactly how it's called, encrypting RPC solver. So that you can that anyone can basically easily deploy it on their dApp node and then set it to the MetaMask network and then use it, but in a private way. So that's one of the options. And then the second one would be to implement Shutter in a wallet that already exists. Well, or not necessarily. You could also like fork a wallet or whatever. And one way to do this would be to use MetaMask snaps. Actually, MetaMask is also present at this hackathon, so that might, I don't know, I haven't checked their bounties, but be a good option to do 2 bounties at one. So yeah, basically implement a snap for Shutter that allows you to directly inside MetaMask encrypt the transaction and then post it to the sequencer contracts. And then I talked about dApp node right before. They are longtime partners at Gnosis. So for those that don't know, dApp nodes basically make it possible. Well, their objective is to provide the easiest way to power Web3. Basically, they have 2 different products that are dApp node Core and dApp node Home. dApp node Core is an operating system that you can install on any machine. It's free to use. You can just download it, install it, and then go ahead with it. And the idea is that you can very easily deploy nodes like Ethereum, like validators, Bitcoin, whatever. Or in this case, well, the objective would be to be able to deploy Shutter as well. And then I have dApp node Home, which are basically pre-built, like tiny machines, like Intel NUCs kind of things. With dApp node Core pre-installed, of course, or a plug-and-play solution that doesn't require any tech. And so, yeah, to develop that package, you would use the dApp node SDK, and you can find the link here. So technically, this should be everything you need. This, and of course, the source code of the encrypting RPC solver, which is here. So yeah, that's it for us. Here are a few more links that maybe are not very useful for the hackathon immediately, but yeah, there's documentation for circles, a demo, I think, yeah, the one, something similar Vanshika just showed, I guess. You can contact Vanshika on Telegram as well. She's our DevRel, so she will be very happy to answer any questions for this hackathon. Of course, we will be available at the booth as well, so don't hesitate to come say hello. Gnosis Chain docs, the forum if you want to participate as a DAO member or things like that. And yeah, join the Discord, Twitter, everything. So yeah, thank you for listening. And I guess we'll finish in time today. So maybe if you have any questions, we have a few minutes. Yes, go ahead, please. Yeah, so MetaMask snaps specifically makes it possible to extend the wallet with additional features. For example, account abstraction and that type of utilities. And you can develop snaps. So it's basically an extension thing for MetaMask, so you don't have to fork MetaMask. You can just, it's basically writing a plugin for MetaMask, if that makes sense. Yes, sorry. Okay, so now we're getting into a bit more technical stuff. So to keep it fairly easy, I don't have the slides here, it would have been very useful, but there is a set of keepers that create Ion keys, which is a proprietary thing, sorry, I can't pronounce that word apparently, for Shudder, and then, so you use those keys to encrypt the transaction, and then at every block, or slot more specifically, so because we have, like, Gnosis Chain is a fork of Ethereum, or uses the same architecture, so we have a beacon chain and an execution layer. When a block builder needs to propose a block, they will get a key that is generated by the keeper, but on that specific slot. So they will get that key like in a few seconds in which you can actually build a block, at which point that specific proposer will be able to do decrypt transactions, but not the other ones. Yeah, so it's just basically at some point they get decryption keys from the keepers, decrypt the transactions, but then they have to follow the order. So because if not, then they could just take the decrypted transaction and then put it anywhere and then still do MEV. But the important part is that they have to follow the order and put it at the very beginning of the block. Yes. Yeah, just come to the booth and then we'll trust you.
So once I'm trusted, I can trust my team members?
Yes.
Okay. It takes time to accumulate CRC?
Yes. I think you'll get a bonus of like 130 or something CRC just so that you can do some stuff with it and play with it. And after 1 hour, you'll get 1 CRC already, so you can just play with dust, let's say, and should be doable.
How can we remove, like, suppose if we want to punish a user for some action, how can we deduct this surplus of action?
Punish a user for an action on circles?
Yeah, suppose it's like, let's say there's an ETHGlobal system and some user does invalid authentication or some kind of bad thing, and this system will punish the user deducting his incentive. Let's say circle, this CRC token is the incentive, and we want to deduct, the system wants to deduct the circle token, punish user to be some kind of thing. So is there a way to remove those?
So I think so. This is service token gets issued by the network, right? But if you're part of a closed group, then
Yes.
the person inside the group.
Yeah.
If you untrust this person, you will get the access removed.
Come back one second.
They'll not be part of the group anymore, so they'll not have the access to the group.
And whatever the CRC is accumulated, that will be removed or just?
Yeah, so their group tokens will be removed, but they would have their own tokens.
For Shudder DApps,
We are not
just
the
say
ones
you can find
who,
it
There's a Telegram specifically for
the hackers so they can connect with the
there's
developers.
a
Maybe just mention it. I can,
they should come to the booth, or is there a link or
they can
something?
come to me.
Okay.
Or it's on the website.
although
I
the
can
group
just do it
tokens
right
is
now.
something that
Yeah.
you can control as a group token. So it's something that we are also building, that you can manage the group in a better way. So if you had to remove someone from the group specifically and revoke their access to the group and remove their tokens, you can.
Yeah, so we have to wrap up, but if there's any other questions, we can answer them. There's also a Telegram group for the Shudder integration and with DAppNode as well, so feel free to contact well, us in general or just here so that you can get, well, invited to that group. Thanks.